Folks, this is the High Tech Podcast brought to you by us, your hosts, William Illingworth and Joshua Swartz, my co-host and confidant in mayhem.
Hello,
welcome, my friend.
Confidant in mayhem. That's a new nickname I got. I like
confidant in mayhem.
I'm gonna put that on a mug. That feels like a mug nickname. That's I like that.
As always, it is another day in paradise. I figure I may as well just lean into that at this point. But how is it going for you, my friend?
Oh, it's going. It's a week. You know, it's been a week. Everything's really stable in higher ed.
So stable.
It's going great.
So easy.
Yeah, nobody's stressed out about the future of our higher ed institutions. You know, so my life is just calm. Really, it's the
good news is there's no stress in corporate either. You know,
oh yeah, because corporate's not worried about anything. really, there's just no stress in the world. You know,
Guys,
I feel like.
But before Josh and I just start crying, we should move on because our work lives are a little stressful right now.
Yeah,
no, it's fine. I literally I have a Zoom background at work.
Oh,
it's
really?
just a video of the This Is Fine room.
Oh, yeah,
But
I've done that.
I also have this
that's right. You
from
have
Antimatter.
Yeah.
It's always sitting on my
love
desk,
that you
and frankly,
kept that. That's hilarious. First of all, call back to Antimatter. I still love Antimatter. That's a great tool.
Yes.
We have not talked about them in a while. But yes, those were. I loved the founder of Antimatter just walking around with This Is Fine. Coasters
and just
at,
handing them
FETC
out.
that one year. Yeah. I love my old backpack. I don't have anymore. I think had like 12 of those in them at one point.
Yes.
Because we got so many of them because we were helping hand them out at our table. Yeah, and
Yep.
yeah, and we did hand them out. If anybody from Antimatter is listening, people did take them. It was just we had maybe been a little
also
aggressive.
kept them ourselves.
We kept some ourselves. I think it was the whole thing. We were great. We're great at advertising. If you want to be a sponsor, we nail it.
So good.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I think, forgive me, I think his name was Daniel. Was the lead there, and I just recently came across this number in my phone. I was like, oh, I should just reach out, say hi. Maybe we should do that for the podcast. Anyways, this is episode 197. We are going to discuss for you folks how to never write HTML and CSS again. Before we do that, we do want to remind you, as always, to head over to our socials at High Tech Podcast or at High Tech Pod on Twitter, Instagram, X, whatever the heck that thing's called, LinkedIn. Not Slack. That is not true. I said that in the past. It's just not.
We do not have a Slack. Well, technically we do have a Slack, but it's not like open to people. It was just a thing we tested to connect to Notion. For like a hot second, we were like, we'll use Slack. And then we were like,
do this. Yeah.
We were like, nah, we'll just continue to use Discord like we've been doing. That was how it went down. Yeah.
Head on over to YouTube, Spotify, like us, subscribe to us, share us, retweet us. Talk to a random person at a coffee shop about the High Tech Podcast and let them know that we're. Good conversation. A lot of fun.
Yeah.
Join us. That's the point of the
because the High Tech Podcast gives homework. That's your homework this week.
Yeah. I would like 3 submissions by Friday at 11:59 p.m.
Go find somebody in a coffee shop. Tell them about the High Tech Podcast. It doesn't have to be positive either. It can be negative. That's fine. We were not overly specific. So whatever you
Josh always says he loves thumbs downs as much as he loves thumbs up because he knows somebody's listening. So.
Somebody cared enough to dislike our video. You know what I mean? Like that.
We've had a couple. It's not just one.
Yeah, that to me means we've said. I still think it would be funny if it's one guy who just keeps accidentally hitting dislike. It means to be liking the video. That would also be funny, but it's fine. Anyway.
And if you're out there and you want to talk to us about why you thumbs down every single one of our videos, email us at inbox@hightechpod.us. That is our spot to be found. Slide into those DMs. We'd love to talk with even the critical folks, the naysayers. If you want to find every single one of our episodes in our episode pages, our affiliates, our other Infofun. Wow, Infofun. That is a new word, folks.
I'm in for fun.
Information for fun. That is all at hightechpod.us. Now, I will, you, Josh, I will
nailed it.
Briefly set you up, hopefully for success, but maybe failure. Anything today in Milo's Milk Minute? Did anything come up in our daily time with little Milo?
I gotta be honest. It's mostly Oblivion news. It was like I was reading articles on glitches in Oblivion. I have not been reading deep articles during I was not prepared.
For
I will
those
be better
who are
prepared
not,
next week.
for those who are not into video games, the production house Bethesda is famous for the Elder Scrolls video game series, and the fourth Elder Scrolls was Oblivion. It was released eons ago, 2009, 2006. And they just 19 years later released a huge remastered version. So this is the talk of the town. Josh, how many hours do you have
at least
this
my
point?
sad obsession, because I've been playing it, and it's
How
because
many
of
hours?
that. I'm not that far in.
Josh?
It's like 20, I think, give or take.
Oh,
I've had
that's
it for
it?
several
Okay,
weeks.
okay.
That's not that far. Yeah. And
Those are
some
rookie numbers.
some of those are like pauses while I go downstairs to do something with Milo or something.
Sure,
so
just
like,
leave it up.
Yeah, just leave it up because I'm gonna come back on and continue playing.
Yeah.
So anyway, yeah, no, I don't. Nothing really like crazy popped up on my news feed this
Okay.
past week that kind of caught my eye on articles. I have too many AI articles to read right now.
Which
so
is
I have,
most of the podcasts.
yeah, so I've kind of fallen behind a little bit. So I'll have to make sure I do next week. And I promise I'm not just like looking up articles about Oblivion. It's probably because I've been looking up YouTube videos about how to do something in Oblivion that I couldn't figure out.
Yep,
And so now my feed is giving me a lot of
the algorithm.
it's the algorithm.
Well, I will try to keep coming back again.
Yeah.
I will you, Josh, to Milo's Milk Minute
will
and to
you, Josh.
find out what podcast merch. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, we could put it on our fire mugs. You know, I think
Exactly,
that could be a
fire
thing, and
mugs.
yeah, the fire mugs.
I will you, Josh.
Yeah, I like it.
Well, non sequitur, pivot.
Nailed it.
The episode. We, as learning developers, learning professionals, primarily deal in the text currency of content from our faculty, from our subject matter experts, right? Like that's like 90% of the material Josh and I ever work in. It's literally like, what did you write, or what content did this instructor bring from a textbook, or whatever, what articles. But the other thing, this happens every so often. A question comes to us or a need comes to us, and it's like, could it do this? Could I put a button on my page? Could it look as... And so Josh and I have probably always had to, at some point, like tweak the HTML and CSS of something. It's not like a requirement. It's not something that's typical in higher education, right? We have our learning management systems that try to standardize the look and feel of the learning experience for our learners, and every platform you use, whether it's a Nearpod to an Antimatter to any other tool, right? They have their own user interface, user experience, user design. But I remember this. It's vivid. Faculty member is no longer at Josh's institution. He was like a program chair and head and all these other things and stuff at one time. But he came to our entire office. He emailed Eric first, and he CC'd a few of us. He said, "How do I change the text in our learning management system? I think that the text in our learning management system does not serve learners." He had all this research about how fonts help with reading and help retention, and he just came at us. Not hard, not maliciously, but he was just like, seriously, how do we change the font? And I was like, you don't. You don't. You're asking me to change the entire font for our learning management system. It's not something we can control. Now, I don't know today if you can or can't do that with Canvas. At that time, we could not do that with
you could go in
Schoology.
probably somewhere in the CSS and upload a custom CSS file and change text.
Can you manage the like your interface's CSS?
Yes,
because I can do that with my LMS.
You have access to upload custom CSS, JavaScript, and HTML
Great.
files,
Great.
right? So like at one point, a perfect example would be we were trying to add like custom buttons to certain pages when we were redoing the entire layout for our course.
Okay.
Because as we've talked on the podcast before, my team does standardized courses for online learners, and so we were trying to figure out like kind of how to put some buttons on the homepage. That was a discussion that we were looking at that point.
And then be consistent for all learners. Because if you're just in a course or something and you have a text field, I can modify the HTML and CSS in a text field, usually.
Well,
it may be modified or like restricted by the site.
So like in Canvas specifically, the reason we had ended up doing some custom stuff was because Canvas has... So like not to get into over details on this episode, right? But like in HTML and CSS, you've got like tags that reference things. So like when you're referencing a button, that's a thing within the web program that you're using that references that button, and that's what tells it to make the button look the way it does, right? So Canvas, for some reason, they don't have that set up on their mobile side. Like they don't really use a lot of buttons on their mobile side. So we were trying to get the button to show up as a button and not just a link in the mobile side as well, and so we had to do some custom CSS work to make that happen. So that was like, anyway, that was a long story of why we were investigating that route. So that's to say you can go fairly customized in Canvas if you want. The problem is like they don't support that. So if they change something that breaks what you came up with, they're not going to be like, okay, cool, we'll fix it for you. You have to figure out how to fix it, right? So my caution is always, when it comes to changing the LMS itself, is pretty much just don't do it unless you really have to. Like this feels like a unnecessary thing. Like the font thing. Like
right. Like
that's not necessary.
The person made a case. The person made a very good case for it. I respect what they were doing and why they thought this. But
sorry.
Yeah. It was I just wrote it on a side screen. It was like one of those things like, no, we're not doing this. However,
unless the font's Comic Sans. If your LMS's font is Comic Sans, then burn it to the ground immediately.
In my learning management system, they have a tooltips feature. It's the LMS is called Docebo. It's a tooltips feature, and it's triggered and it's managed by a little question mark up in the top right-hand corner of the platform. You can click on it every time you go in the platform to turn off tooltips. But if you log out and log in, it resets. And every time it resets, it will fire every tooltip on the page every time. Every time.
Fun. That's what people like.
It's infuriating. This is the first thing that I did in Docebo when I became the LMS administrator for it, was figure out the CSS for that feature and turn it off. Now, like Josh is saying, if they ever change the platform and the CSS changes for that, it's going to break it and it's going to come back or whatever, right? And I will have to find that out at that time.
It'll come back angrier because you've like punished it to like you put it in like a cage, they'll break something and it doesn't just come back. It like specifically says Will sucks. Like in it, like it's had time. Every
other tooltip is like Will sucks. Will sucks.
It's had time to think about it. It's been in a CSS cage for years. Just waiting.
It's just angrier and angrier. But like these are good examples of why we might want to consider this. Now, these are learning focused. These are everyday things Josh and I wrestle with.
I would say these are learning and development focused. But like in general, the internet is a thing that people communicate information on, right? So like this idea of like,
and these are the languages behind it all.
HTML, CSS, and JavaScript are all languages behind what I would kind of encompass together in this term to mean web development, right? Like this idea of developing something for the web. Somebody who's an actual web developer, I'm probably missing something and you're mad at me, and it's fine. You can let us know at inbox@hightechpod.us and I'll correct it later, maybe someday. But in general, this is how I think about it. Like web development being this idea. And it's funny, like you and I were talking about like our experiences in this. Why Will and I cared about this it was funny because back in the millennial days of early life, right? You wanted to know
at the turn of the millennium.
Yeah, the turn of the millennium. You wanted to know this stuff because you had a MySpace or a Zanga or a LiveJournal, and you wanted to know how to like do HTML for it so that it could look cool. I remember when I was in the band, we hired people and we also learned how to do HTML so that we could make our band page on MySpace look super cool. Like that was the thing back then. If I could fast forward and realize that like, oh, nobody's going to care about this in several years from now.
Could have saved the money.
Probably wouldn't have done it. But anyway, so these are the languages that are used, right? And so I think web development commonly is something that a lot of people wish, like it's funny when anybody talks about wanting to know how to code things. Well, maybe you disagree with me on this, but 90% of the times they actually don't mean knowing how to do real coding. They mean like they wish they knew how to like make something look like a real thing on the internet. Like they eventually mean web developing, right? They're not talking about like SQL code. They're usually talking about they want to know how to like do something in HTML or like make something. And they have an idea they want to make a reality on the internet.
I believe that's the difference between front end and back end development. Like front end development, again, Josh and I aren't developers or coders, so
somebody just got
correct
real
us
mad by what we're about to say.
Correct
we're about
us.
to make like 5 people
we
angry.
can ask Claude in a little bit, right,
Yeah.
to verify what I believe is the truth. But like front end development is what the environment looks like and how the user interacts with the environment, the learning, the space, the website, whatever. Back-end development is the databases, the integrations between things. If somebody clicks a button, what's happening behind the button, right? So the button itself is front-end development. What does it look like? What's its shape? What's its color? How big is it? Where is it on the page? That's front-end development.
Yeah.
When you click the button, it triggers something in the background, and it does something. It's going to send data from one place to another. It's going to validate data you just input on the screen, whatever it is. That's back-end development. Back-end development, there's now just dozens of languages. I have no idea what they are. Ruby on Rails and C Sharp, and I don't, who knows. There's
Yeah.
all these languages.
Klingon, Elvish.
Klingon,
Really?
yep.
If somebody could
Yep.
make a back end or front end code language
Out
and
of
call
Elvish.
it Elvish, look, that would be really cool. I'm just saying.
I'd learn
Just,
it. But we need HTML and CSS in the learning space because so much of what we do does tie to what the user sees, right? Josh, I've used HTML and CSS in all of my jobs, all of my positions at different capacities. And the good thing about them in one sense is they are what I would call just a limited language. So if you get to those back-end development things, you can do so many things to make all these different languages work together and make your website do stuff. But HTML and CSS are bound by what's possible in a browser. And we don't need to get too technical, but browsers are right, like Google Chrome, Safari, Edge, all these Brave browser.
Yeah.
All these things are all tools that deliver a visual experience to you. And you can't just make something because you want it to exist. Like, it has to be possible in HTML and CSS. Do we need to, be experts in it? No. What we do need, though, as learning professionals typically, is the ability to make our learning environments just a little more specific. My LMS has a course player that has a syllabus on the right-hand side and then content on the left-hand side. The other way around. Syllabus on the left-hand side and content on the right-hand side. My brain's
You could have just
a little
pretended.
screwy.
I wouldn't have known the difference, really.
Well, it doesn't make sense. Why would you put the syllabus on the... Yeah, anyways. But the player is a rectangle, and if you do not have constraints on it, if you do not edit it, if you take it as default, it will put any text you put in that player at the absolute utmost top left spot in the square, and it looks like it's falling off into the rest of the web page. So whenever I write narrative content in my LMS, I automatically go and get some HTML and CSS to add padding to the space so that the text is not up in the top corner, but it's actually floating somewhere in a reasonable space with white space around it, and makes it a little easier to read, and it looks better on the page. Even more so, I just take it the extra step further and I put it in like a nice background that's in part of my company's brand imaging, and I add some like headers and some font text styles. Like, I make it look nice, because if I don't do that, it's literally just white on black and the text is almost falling off the page. If I did not do that, is there a negative to the learner? No. The text is there. The text can be read. Does it look good? Is it easy to read? Does it invite them to want to learn more? No, I don't think that it's an engaging experience. So I take the extra effort to bring some HTML and CSS into it so that it looks good. And these building blocks, they're structured, right? Like, if you've ever used some of the typical website developing tools or whatever, a lot of times they're like widgets. They're little blocks. Like, you have 3 blocks on a page or 2 blocks on a page. That's because they've built little, what you call div containers or blocks that are sitting there in the background that you can kind of click and drag on the front end. But it's just, when you click and drag on the front end, it's doing text stuff, HTML stuff in the back end for you. So, our episode here at 19 minutes into things is about how you can do this without being an expert. You can join Josh and I at this level of expertise, novice, and not be scared of it. HTML and the tools that we have with AI and stuff make it all possible. And you don't need to be a pro. You don't need to pay money to get this stuff done. You can just use ChatGPT. It's good enough to get there.
Yeah, I think the point of all of that, right, is that because it's a limited language to a certain degree, right, and some, like, people have been pushing the bars of that. While you were talking, Will, I was trying to find it. If you're curious more of, like, people trying to push the bars on what's possible, We did an episode 168, where we had Brian from Hacks on. That's kind of what he's talking about, what they're doing with Hacks. They're trying to like actually change what's possible on the internet and make it more accessible to everybody. But one of the other things, though, with it being a limited language is, in my opinion, this is a perfect place for AI to come in and help. And people have been using that to bridge the gaps. Will's been doing it. I've done it as well. I've seen some other people where, like, you don't need to know the whole language, all of the details about HTML, all of those things, which can take time to learn and practice with. I have team members who have done entire certificates to learn that stuff and, like, be able to do it better. You can actually do it much faster now with AI solutions, really a ton of different solutions that allow you to do this type of thing. But because it's a limited language, this is in the wheelhouse of like an AI tool can do really well, which is you give it what you want, or kind of generally what you're thinking, and just with a little bit of knowledge about what's in HTML, you can use an AI solution to bridge the gap with the knowledge that you're missing, right? And I think that's what's been really cool. I've done it a couple times now to figure out some or figure out some HTML solutions for courses or things we've been trying to figure out, without having to spend a bunch of time digging into another team member on my team calls it, the Reddit hole of trying to find out what everybody's done with this and if anybody's found a fix for this somewhere. And I don't think this just applies to learning and development, right? This is definitely applicable to learning and development, because any of you listening to the podcast who are either developing courses, developing training, or even you're a teacher, at some point you've wanted to try to make something either in your LMS or on the internet that your students could interact, or your learners could interact with. But regular people want websites. Like, different people want different websites for different reasons. Podcasts, perfect example, of where you want. And yeah, there are solutions like Squarespace and like different software tools that you can get that have templates, and you can just lean into that template, and that's great. But at a certain point, you usually want to customize something to fit better what you want to do. And that used to be a lot harder. Now I feel like AI kind of bridges that gap. I mean, would you agree, Will, that's doable for a lot of people?
When we were in our varsity years, and trying to make our MySpaces do stuff, like, we had a task. I want my MySpace page to play a song. Okay, like, you have to figure out how to do that. You have to get the song, you have to upload it to MySpace, you have to write Well, not only do I want it to play the song, I want it to loop the song. Well, now I have to figure out how to make it loop. Like, you if you're not familiar with HTML and CSS, if you've never looked at code, it's like, what do you mean? How do I there's no button to push. No, you're going to have to find a command that's going to say something like, video source equals, and then blah, blah, blah. You put it out to wherever the location is of the file. And then, let's say playback style is loop, right? Like, whatever the language is or how it's supposed to be written in HTML, you've got to figure out that text command to give to the browser to do that work for you. When I want to get rid of that tooltips thing, I have a very specific task. I don't want this thing to happen. It's in there, so I need to get rid of it from my platform. You may not know why you want HTML or CSS, but somebody's going to come to you with a question, like a faculty member. I want to have a button that the students can click, then information drops down. If that's not a default in your platform, that's HTML. A button is an HTML tag, and then the click action is an HTML tag, and then if you hover over the button, does it have an action or not? That's an HTML tag. And all that stuff is something you can put into your text in the background, the HTML, and make something happen. So you do need a task. I mean, it's kind of hard to just think like, oh, I want to learn HTML and CSS. I remember getting an HTML for Dummies book when I was like 14. I'm like, cool, let me read this book. I read the book. I did not understand HTML. I could not write a website, right? I didn't have a task to accomplish. I didn't know what I wanted to do with it. And so I think that having something to accomplish is really the biggest motivator, because you can then go to AI and say, I want to make a button on a page. Okay, AI can give you that in a second. You can do that with Google. You can get to that answer with just like W3 Schools or whatever. But like, AI is going to be able to not only give you the code, describe why it's doing it, help you modify it if you want to change the color of the button, the experience of the button, blah, 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 blah. So
yeah, I would agree. I think perfect example real quick before we jump in how to do this, right, is this was a JavaScript solution, but Will and I we've talked about this before. We were building a password training module where we were teaching people on password security, and we wanted to have the learner actually practice creating a secure password, right? And
Yes.
we wanted it to be more than just like select one from the options or like create, like we wanted it to be a little bit more fluid where like they could try to create one and we could have something look at the parameters of what we could set forth in the training, right, to evaluate whether or not it was a secure password or not, right? So that doesn't sound that hard, but when you talk about doing that in like a training module, not on like a website itself, it's a little bit more difficult. So we had to try to figure out what we wanted to do. And we'll use AI to actually get the JavaScript code for doing that. So he was able to tell them, like, we're working in storyline, we're doing this. And the AI solution, you had to tweak it a little bit, but the AI solution gave you pretty much most of what you needed to make what you had, right? And so like Will has a little bit of experience in JavaScript, but again, Will and I are not front-end developers. We don't know all the details. And that was something that like would have probably taken us a very long time to figure out if you had not leveraged AI in doing it. And it worked perfectly. Like we were able to input passwords into it and it was able to check against the parameters of the course that we had put forward, and it created a pretty cool kind of final knowledge check inside our training. That was a little bit more dynamic.
Well, and if I didn't use AI and I didn't know it, my other two options were take a course on JavaScript and pay money and time to do one task, not possible, or I would have had to find someone, a mentor or a consultant, right? Like
or
if
Reddit.
It's not AI, yeah. Hey, Reddit, please help. But this is, we do this every so often. This is probably the most technical thing we get into, besides like learning theories. We did this with episode 184 with the using GPT to make a tanks game episode, right? Like we put it on screen, we walked through what it looks like and gave you, hopefully, some examples of how to do this so you're not too scared of it. That's practically my biggest goal with an episode like this. This is not impossible. We don't know the episode title yet, but it may be something like Even Your Grandma Can Code, because frankly, anyone who's willing to take some time and tinker with this can make this
maybe
happen.
It's more like Even Your Uncle Can Code. Your grandma's going to be able to use AI.
Could be a step.
I don't want to overpromise, you know what I mean? Anyway, let's stop talking about it. Let's get into it, right? So we'll use some stuff you want to show as an example, right?
What we're going to do is we're going to look at, we're going to use Claude AI as our LLM, as our AI to help us, and we're going to use codepen to visualize what we're doing. I have actually already started some stuff here because it could take some time to think this through, so I'll get some stuff on screen here for us.
For context, we are also going to basically create a high-tech podcast website, right? We have one.
Correct.
But we want to create a new one. That's the fun thing.
Let's just start from scratch, see where we get, right?
Yeah.
So I've said write me HTML and separate CSS. We're going to do website design. Here's the colors we want to use. Those are our brand colors. And then I've given it just a basic layout, right? It should have 3 horizontal boxes. I'll say for images, 2 large square boxes below that for text and images, and a floating pop-up on the right-hand side of the page, right? We're spitballing. Let's see what happens. So I'm going to ask Claude for that. And it's already recognizing all my colors, and it's starting the process. Once it starts to give me code, I'm going to put that over into codepen so we can start to visualize. Amazing. It's not only doing this, but it's writing it all up on the right-hand side like a text editor, a code text editor.
And for context, when we did the Tanks game episode, right? So that was recent enough. Go to our actual website that we actually have, and you can find it. We did a couple episodes on building games with AI. We used ChatGPT in that one. This one we wanted to use Claude mainly because it's more we started to dig into Claude. One, they keep popping up on the podcast because we like them. But 2, Claude has really kind of come up to be one of the recommended apps, like LLMs for coding. Like I hear a lot of people who do coding who don't have their own solutions built into their already existing apps. Like VS Code is another coding tool that already has AI solutions built into it. For those who don't have that, I've heard a lot of positive things about Claude. And I've done a little bit of myself, too, using Claude for certain things, and it's been really helpful. So this is me trying to kill time as Claude writes quite extensive code.
What I'm already impressed with is how much it's written, and I'm a little terrified. I was expecting a lot. Oh, my God.
It shows it! It displays it. We don't even need VS Code right now. Let's bring this up.
Let's just do this. Oh my gosh. Look at that. Would you look at that? Josh, do we need a new website?
We kind of do. This is much better than our existing website.
Let's do this real quick. We're just going to throw up hightechpod.us.
Yeah.
Josh and I use Notion for this, so we are limited
yes.
by Notion's visuals in some ways, but here's the real, right? This is the real High Tech Podcast website, and here is what Claude just built for us in the matter of seconds, right? So it's left placeholders, but it's even suggested what those placeholders could be for us. So latest episode, featured guest.
Oh, they're like responsive too. They're like popping up and on when you put the cursor over it. It has an automatic subscribe to our newsletter. What is this? What is this wizardry? This is kind of nuts.
This broke me.
I didn't expect it to do this well right away. This is become a guest. There's an apply to become. These are all things we have on our existing website. I want to point this out. We have not told it to do this. Like, that's kind of nuts. Like, we didn't tell it to create a listen to our latest episodes. Our website has that, right?
Okay, there's the episode. We're done. Just ask Claude to do it for you. We also
have an apply to be a guest thing. Like, that's, you know what I mean? It also, I love...
Should we have a newsletter?
It's got coming soon. These are good ideas. I'm going to steal some of these for the website. These...
You know what I love? You know what I love the most about this, okay? It was so quick. Yeah. It is perfect in one sense to our brand, our colors. Like,
it doesn't have our logo.
Josh and I,
like, we didn't give it our logo and stuff.
Sure,
like,
sure.
You know.
But we don't need a website that's an encyclopedia or an accordion of information, right? Josh and I need something that helps people become a guest, helps people find our episodes, click here to subscribe. You know, we need simple stuff, and boom, right in front of us, this website is what we would want. Like, if we started from scratch today, I would copy and paste this. Yeah. I would have no qualms starting with this as the complete foundation for the new website. And then maybe, you know, like on our current website, the episodes start at the bottom. You can kind of start scrolling down to them. Maybe I'd add that, but maybe not. You got an episodes link, click the episodes link, and that page.
No, yeah. If we were using totally a real website creator for ours, like, which we've toyed around about, right? So for like breaking the fourth wall a little bit, when we did the High Tech Podcast to start, we mainly made our website on Notion just because we wanted to see if we could do it. That was really just kind of the thing. We were like, this is something we already are using for other stuff. Let's see if we know it's a thing that people can do. So we were like, let's just see how we like it. We've toyed with leaving Notion as our website for a while because it's not, like, listen, I love Notion. And for somebody just trying to get something up on the internet, Notion is great. But it's not, you can't design something like this in Notion. I can't create this type of dynamic website in Notion. So maybe Claude will help us jump that bridge a little bit sooner. This is pretty sick. Now, I'm curious, like, on the code side, like, because you can switch right now. You're looking at the visual, right? Well, up top, there's like a toggle to switch between that and the code. What does it actually give you? So it's got all
this is the scary part, folks, right? This is where, if you don't know what you're looking at, what do I do? Very simply enough, every website has an HTML block at the top and a head, and this head is where you usually describe a lot of the context and metadata about a website. So as a very, very basic example, let's see if I can zoom in here a little bit for legibility. Yeah, there we go. Claude took my requests and my information about color types, and that's a part of the entire head or header for this page. So anywhere you've got my primary color, it's making a name and a tag for it. Primary is this, secondary is that, etc., etc. This is where that kind of information is going to be. So body text, any font family is going to start with Arial font and sans serif as a backup. Background color for that's going to be var. Accent 2, right? So these are variables, and it's saying every time you see a background color, if it writes the word background color as a reference, it's going to use this. It's setting up architecture for the entire page. So anytime you go somewhere, you don't have to write every time the font is Arial. It can just say font family. Use the font family, and it's going to use this information here. That's how HTML combines what I was saying a little bit before about limited structures, right, with limitless possibility. So if I just make these structures, what is my font family? What is my background color? What do these variables mean? If I set all these container pieces of information up at the top here, all it has to do is reference that later down in the materials. So let's see if I can scroll down and find an example of this. Oh gosh, not going to be that easy for me, is it? There we go. Here's an example. Oh, that's still the style sheet.
Yeah.
Oh, here's I guess the better point of what I was trying to make. At the end of these little slash moments, that means that a bracket or a section of content is completed. Everything above this section is the style sheet and the head for the page, right? Everything below that, everything here, this body, all of this is the content that we actually see. So I'm going to do a quick bit here. I'm going to take out the style. I'm going to switch back to CodePen. Where do I have it? Good. I'm just going to put this text in for the HTML, and we'll see what it looks like. So without style, right, this is just HTML. Without the style, this is what you get. Here's the high-tech podcast name. Here's the links at the top of the page in a bulleted list. Here's, what should be pictures these are the three horizontal boxes at the top. Here's the one square box on the left. Here's the one square box on the right, right? This is ugly without style. If I go back and I grab everything above, I think this is going to work. I'm going to grab everything in the style box. There's a lot in the style box. And copy that now back over to CodePen. In theory, here's the test. In theory, if I paste this, everything should start to look like it did before. There you go.
Yep.
Right? Now, everything that was there on screen is on this HTML box, and it's the text. It is everything we want to read or interact with. How it looks and what it looks like is the CSS, and that's this style sheet. So when I hover over this box and it moves in the center of the page, that's something up here in the CSS. If I hover over the word episodes and it turns from white to our teal blue, that's in the CSS. These are all things that are in the CSS area. And without that, it's just white on black text. None of these are links. They know that they're links, but notice episodes does not change color when I hover over it. Latest episode, all this text here, none of it's changing if I move my mouse over it. All of that's in the CSS, and we need to be able to modify that if we want to make things prettier, more interactive, change the experience in any capacity.
Yeah. Now, I'm curious, Will, what does, go back to Claude for a second, because I haven't actually done this in Claude yet. What are your export options again? So there's an export button up there, download as HTML. So you can download this, because some of your, tools, right, like a Squarespace or like an LMS, will have places to upload HTML and CSS files. So it's a file containing all of that information. It's really just kind of a fancy text file, in my understanding, that uploads that in there. But for you who listening to this podcast might not be copying and pasting stuff or might need to rework some stuff, an export might be a good solution. Now, again, there's probably some tweaking that would need to happen here to get it to work in another exact interface, right? There's going to be a little bit of tweaking that's going to need to be done, but you could figure it out by all the people who have been using AI to do this, or the solutions. And also, you could probably tell it specific things to tweak about it based on the software you're using, right? Because Claude's able to recognize what type of software you're going to be using.
I feel like that'd be amazing, and I want to go down that rabbit hole specifically, but I think that's a whole another 50-minute episode. Taking this and putting it in Squarespace or Wix or something.
This might be This might be like a part 2. Honestly, this might need to be a part 2 of this episode.
Here's a thought that I do want to put into play, though. Let's say I don't like this hover thing. So I'm at this stage. There are 2 ways I can modify this. If I know the CSS, I can dig in here and find the hover. And I don't know. I don't know if it's, here it is. Maybe it's this, right? That's just changing the color. Image box, transform, okay, cool. This is it. This is probably the hover effect. That when you hover over one of those boxes, it moves by -10 pixels. So that's going to be up or down kind of thing. And that's the y-axis. If I want to modify that hover, I could probably just put in a 5-0 here. Oh, it's not going to let me edit this, is it?
Yeah, you can't edit the right in there, because that's just them.
Let's go back to CodePen. Let's go back to CodePen. Find that hover again. Oh, and here I cannot edit it. Image box. Oh, it was a translate Y was the thing, right? Here we go. Let's do 500. Let's just make this ridiculous, right? So before it was 10 pixels and it moved a little bit. If I hover over it now, notice how it just disappears.
It's kind of like our tank game where things just kind of go to the air. You know what I mean? Like that's.
Now let's dial it down a little bit from 500 to 50. This is all I have to do, right? It's a lot more significant of a movement, but modifying CSS, changing the experience, is as simple as changing a value, right? If I change 1 to 0 to 10, we get a different experience, and that's all it takes. I know a little bit about that, and so I can go find that. You may not know that. So what do you need to do? Let's go back to Claude and say, Claude, we don't have to say Claude, but whatever.
Oh, yeah, you don't have to call it by name.
I like I like the image hover where it moves up and up a little bit, but can it move sideways? Let's do that, right? See if it can move sideways by 10 pixels. So I'm going to know that I'm assuming I know it needs to move by 10 pixels. You may not know that. You could just tell it to move sideways instead of up and down. So I'm going to throw that command in there and see what it's going to do for it. It just updated all the text. Here, I saw it there for a second before it translated real quick. I saw it change from translate Y to translate X. That's the X and Y axes. So now if I hover over one of these, it should move to the right by 10 pixels, right? Instead of, as before, it went up and down, which is a weird little effect. I wouldn't do this personally.
Yeah,
but that's all it
UX.
takes.
Yeah.
Right.
Now,
it's not functionally great.
Let's make this wild for a second, okay?
Yep.
Let's just can ask Claude to include some information about tanks.
Let's see what it does. And it's going to redo the page. Look, it's taking away some of the text
wild.
content.
You can actually watch it remove the content. That's crazy.
It's kind of fun. And now it's regenerating. This week, tech tanks. Oh no. I can't wait to see this. I can't wait. I love this podcast, Josh.
This is good. This is fun. This is a fun time.
Now, who knows how long it's going to take. Oh, great. Oh, we broke it. Oh, it's not done.
It's not done. It was fixing
done.
something. Oh, it's adding more things. Featured guest, tank design engineer, coming soon. Tanks of tomorrow.
Oh no, it's not stopping.
We've made it do bad things. Oh, it's just changing the entire website to be about tanks.
Oh no.
This is
and it is doing version control, so that it went from version 5 to version 6.
Yeah.
I don't know why it's still going.
It's
Stop after version 6. Stop after version 7. 7, stop. Stop.
Okay, no,
it's gone rogue.
It's gone rogue. High-tech podcast. This is hilarious. How we did bad things. We did very bad things.
We'll zoom it out a little bit here so we can see the whole. It's still describing.
It's describing what it did. So, High Tech Podcast Tank Edition. Latest episode: Tank Tech Revolution. Featured guest: Tank Design Engineer. Coming soon: Tanks of Tomorrow. This week, tech tanks. And it added this is your fault for telling it to add funny copy. That's why this is here. Ever wonder why tanks are the ultimate tech gadget? They've got everything. Caterpillar tracks, swivel functionality that'll make your gaming chair jealous. This
and they're basically indestructible smartphones on tracks.
This is ridiculous. Tank memes. I like scroll up real quick, Will. Oh wait, no, hold on. Stay there. Go back down. Go back down to the bottom. It has a copyright at the bottom. 2025 High Tech Podcast, where tech tanks roll. All rights reserved. No tanks were harmed in the making of this podcast.
I'm crying.
This is amazing. I love everything about this right now. I love it so much.
Claude is is now my favorite AI. I will never use another. This is fantastic.
Scroll up to the top again one more time. I just want to see what it changed about the top. Home, tank episodes, about,
Tank-
tank experts.
Tanks. I really wish it had done tank spurts. Like
Yeah.
just
I also like that it changed the subscribe to newsletter to join the tank talk. Sign up for a newsletter or we'll join why tanks are just spicy
sedans.
Absolutely free.
Oh, I have
gosh.
to take a screenshot of
That's
that.
amazing.
Oh my gosh. That's
This
amazing.
is so much better than I anticipated. Oh man. Whew.
Wow. Wow.
Okay.
Oh, folks. This is the new High Tech Podcast. Next week on episode 198, you will have
Tanks of Tomorrow.
Tanks of Tomorrow. Wow, where tech tanks roll. No tanks were harmed in the making of this podcast.
I think it added the
God.
no tanks were harmed in the making of this podcast might be my favorite addition. I have to be honest.
I really hope we
sorry,
have
I take it back.
proved.
Submit your tankiest joke. Did you see that button? Sorry.
No.
We'll move on. There's a button that says submit your tankiest joke.
And you can submit your tankiest joke by emailing us at inbox@hightechpod.us. If you found this ridiculous or extremely helpful, please let us know. Folks, I did not expect to go this way. Truthfully, I expected it to give us some of the blues on blues, some of the yellows. I expected us to do some basic organization, and I expected us to play with it. I wanted to demonstrate to you how easy it is to modify the HTML and to make content. Unfortunately, it's too good, and it really made a usable website. All Josh and I would have to do is maybe switch out this text here for our actual logo or put our logo beside it.
Well, you can
We'd have to
attach
switch.
files. Like, we did not test this, but I'm assuming you could actually upload the file and it would put the image inside the website. We don't need to do
amazing.
that for this one, but you can attach files just like you can with ChatGPT.
We would switch out these 400s by 320s. It's telling us you should put a 400 by 320 pixel image here. Switch out these for images, and boom, the page is done. We would have to point each of these links here to a different page, right, in our website. But, like, it made the page for us. We don't really have to do a lot. If we wanted to do the work I was just referencing, we would open up the HTML here. We'd have to scroll down past all the style sheets. That's all the style sheets. Up here at the top, right, we've got a list. Let me zoom in again, make this a little bit easier for you. This is the example I'll use here. Because we can't go into everything. There's just not enough time. But if you wanted to take this HTML it just gave you and now do something, I know that an A tag, I don't know what it's called, but an A tag is where a link or an inserted media type is going to go. I know the href tag, and I don't know what it stands for, is for a link. So all I have to do is go in here and in where it has all the hashtags or the pound signs, remove the pound sign and put in a link. Put in google.com or hightechpod.us/contact or whatever it is, right? I just have to switch out all these little hashtags for all the links I want for each of these pages. Home, tank episodes, about, tank experts, contact, and boom, those are all workable links. That's as simple as it is to take what Claude just gave me and make it functional. We can't go into everything. We're not going to go further than that. You can do that same practice now, going down into these div classes and finding the image rows and finding the image boxes and putting in your image links. But here's what you would do if you don't know that. Hey, Claude, because it's my buddy. You know, we talk. We hang out. I'm just spending some extra tokens here. How do I put a link in the home link in the top navigation bar? If I click it right now, it doesn't go anywhere. I want it to go to google.com. I'm just going to throw in some random link, right? I'm going to tell Claude that, and I'm thinking it's either going to do the work for me. Yep, I'll modify the HTML to make the home link in the navigation bar go to google.com and click. Let me update that for you. Or it would tell me how to do it. Now, I might be able to tell it to do that for me. Oh, good, it is going to explain. I've updated the home link in the navigation bar to direct users to google.com when clicked. Here's what I changed. I changed the link from href # to href https://google.com. And I added a target equals blank attribute so the link opens in a new tab. It took 3 actions, in a sense, for me, and then described them. And if I go and I were to click on that, I can actually see in the bottom left-hand side of my browser right now, it is the link. If I click on home, it is going to actually try to prompt me to open this website. It's done. It did the work. Let's go look at the code. And again, trying to give you a practice or a tool here that you can go and do this yourself and then have reproducible activity. Now that it taught you that this is what it changed, you can probably see this format pretty well. Ahref, quotation mark, there's the link, blah, blah, blah. Copy and paste that down to the rest of them and change the links. You're good to go. You have just learned HTML and CSS.
Yeah, this is how you can learn it, right? You can go back and forth then with this. This was kind of a byproduct of what Will and I wanted to talk about, but like we created something using Claude, but now we can learn how to adapt it with Claude, right? So like we can tell it what we want to do, and because this is why I like Claude. Not all AI solutions do this right now. It's trying to be very explanatory of how it did what it did on the code that you're doing. So you can actually be learning live how to change this, and then you can figure out how you're going to get it to a place you would host, right? So like this is what we're talking about, where like all of this work that Will and I just did, we did in 20 minutes, right? Now, granted, Will knows a bit more about HTML and CSS than the average person, but it's like you don't need to know a ton about it. You can actually be asking Claude questions about what it's created to learn how to change it, and then take that and adapt it. And that's where like it kind of jumps you past a level of understanding. They kind of reference it this way: leapfrogging over something you would have needed to know before. You can actually get something done much quicker without that expertise.
And all of this on the left-hand side, plain English. You may not know code. You may not know what it said. Change the link from blah, 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 blah. You may not know that, but it tells you. I changed the link from this to that. Yeah. I added this attribute so the link. If you have a question, you can now ask it, what is an HTML attribute? I'm not going to hit enter because, again, I will bunny trail this into infinity. There's so much we can learn here, right? But Claude is going to take the time and explain it to me. So, folks, like Josh was saying, I was able to move us a little faster along because I understand some things already, but if you don't, just ask. It's not that hard, and I think that this is a really great tool to have in your toolbox. If you want to stand out on your next job interview, on a resume or whatever, play with this stuff. If you want to be able to prove, I'm a learning developer, and I can customize the learning experience using HTML and CSS to ensure our learners have a better rate of engagement. Boom, you can put that on a resume because you've used Claude and learned through this how to use these tools.
Yeah.
I'm gonna stop sharing. I've got to get it off the screen or we will go forever.
Yeah, I'll just keep making things.
I really love that. I mean, that was so much better than I even expected. And I wanted to play mostly in CodePen because I like how CodePen visualizes, and then Claude did it for us. So. Yeah. Go use both tools if you need to, but wow, Claude, thank you.
Yeah, very much so. Again, okay, so folks, that is episode 190, whatever we're on, 197, 7 in the beginning. Aha, nailed it. Okay, so next episode of the High Tech Podcast, we're going to be talking about, does tech make life more complicated? That's it. That's what we're going to talk about.
Just a little thing.
I'm not going to give you much more context because I think you should listen to the episode to find out what that means, why we're talking about it, and how it will influence your life. So check that out next week as we talk about, does tech actually make life more complicated? Again, just a reminder, you can find us on all the socials at High Tech Podcast or at High Tech Pod. You can also get in touch with us if you want to be on the podcast. You want to tell us what you thought of this episode today. You want to share a Tanks website you created with us. You can email us at inbox@hightechpod.us, and then also our actual website is hightechpod.us. It's there. It doesn't look as cool as what we made in Claude, but we'll figure it out later. You can go check that out at hightechpod.us. Okay, folks, this is another wrap on another week. Empowering minds.
Embracing tech. Cheers.
Cheers.
Buckle up, let's ride the wave. Future's calling, tech to crave. High Tech Podcast, light the way. Join the can play.